didn't realize until very recently that um, 80 Police Files is a prequel to not only that Bubblegum Crisis thing, which I saw a bit of once and didn't do a heck of a lot more for me. I thought it was a little bit silly to be honest with you. And not only is there a connection to Bubblegum Crisis, but there's a connection to Parasite Dolls, which like Noel Oakeshott probably told me about the connection once. I totally forgot. I saw Parasite Dolls before I ever saw um, 80 Police Files, as far as I know, maybe a year or two before. I just didn't think to associate the two together. But in any instance, 80 Police Files is just riveting, rollicking viewing, beautifully animated, just slick sort of 80s anime, violent cyberpunk goodness. Easy to get a kick out of, decent intellectual substance as well. But as I was saying in my Megazone 2 free, part free upload, at the end of the day, you're not just sticking to this, you're not just reading a transcript of the film's dialogue and extrapolating themes from that like you would a literary text. You're being absorbed in the sort of techno aesthetic of the work itself, and which sometimes you see like people in these sort of more snooty anonymous forums or boards, oh, this thing it's so much more intellectual, and it's like, if you care about intellectual stuff, you like the animation, like read books if that's what you fucking care about. Like, stop trying to like, a literary text is like a fair amount of your time. A film, one of these OVAs is it's like over in like 90 minutes or so. Like, you're cutting corners in a way if you want to brag about being sort of better than the average person, more intellectual than the average person. Using films to do so, it's very difficult. I say that as a great admirer, someone who sort of life trajectory was determined by my perhaps unhealthy, frankly, obsession with films. And I don't. I think it's a very. You're almost shooting yourself in the foot by claiming intellectual, uh, sort of grandiosity via bragging about films, because, and your appreciation of certain films, because isn't it innately, especially if you're in the context of sort of trying to match what people who do this with literature do, you can, if you want to mimic any sort of highfalutin intellect, perhaps pseudo intellectual talk, some might accuse it of being, try to mimic how people talk in the realm of the visual arts, or did at one time. Now it's more about, well, the problem with the visual arts now and the sort of discourse around that, it's all about like sort of socio-cultural sort of signaling and sort of awareness and this and that, and that would be fine, except all that stuff's just fake and hollow, and for sort of bourgeois twats to just be like, oh yes, 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 me, I don't feel as guilty about spending money on things other than, not just other than charity, but only on the sort of luxury material needs, fashion items and fucking, fancy meals. But you sort of do your you make your penance by appreciating some artwork from this person whose context is this, and I felt alienated in the society, and so this is about people trying to need to feel bad about this because I felt slightly out of the ordinary, because no one's ever felt slightly out of the ordinary ever. It's not common at all, apparently. But no, seriously. I guess the point I'm trying to make is, let's forget about just film period for a moment. Guys on the internet just trying to be like, oh, I'm so much smarter. Look at this anime I appreciate. It's like, read books if you want to hollowly brag about being better than the average person. You know what I mean? Like, Jesus fucking Christ. Because the book people will demolish you. You can claim to them that, if you really wanted to, that a visual medium is more exciting than sort of whirling around the same themes and allegories for decades as we could accuse science fiction literature of doing, perhaps not unfairly. Whereas film as a medium is constantly advancing with the technology, and you know, visual media generally and the new facets of visual media inevitably find themselves sort of consumed within feature filmmaking. Think about all the music video traits which wound up mainstays of mainstream film, or indeed just narrative film articulation and sort of engineering by the late 90s and early 21st century, for instance. Or, of course, a better example, perhaps a more widely acknowledged example, is how traits of the documentary film became very, very liberally employed in mainstream films to create a sense of immersion. You know, during the sort of new waves, new Hollywood epochs of the 60s and 70s, you know, there was this idea that, you know, old Hollywood films weren't placing their cameras on the ground next to the players, involving, you know, you're watching at a distance, like in a theater, like in a play. But you know, the documentaries, you were immersed, you were there on the ground with the subjects. And so gradually sort of films to employ a sense of realism and sort of spontaneity would employ those traits, and now they're ubiquitous now, to the point where like a lot of films have like a shaky cam, not shaky cam, but like, you know, like documentary crew flying the wall, cameras shaking slightly feel to just give you a sense of realism, like you're there in the moment, as though they were just like, you know, cameras operating and the people were indifferent to them being there, and it's not like a staged sort of gallant old Hollywood production, or sort of one of these gallant European works by Renoir or Visconti, say. Or Rossellini's, he's somewhat a bit of both, you could say. Depends on what films he's directing at what point in his career. Okay, 7 minutes. I really got to cut this, and I hope you've enjoyed the green caps of 80 Police Files, because I don't think this improvised audio was very good. I'm just going to assume.